Okay, well, we'll get started. So we put the hardware on the machines just to make sure that everybody knew this was coming a couple weekends ago. And so as further evidence that things were evolving. I do want to introduce a number of people who I've been working with, and they've been a great group. It's Anita Omkes, Micah Graybill, Donna Carlson. They're all from IT. Donna has been the project manager and has done an excellent job of kind of keeping everything on the go. And Carolyn Ring, you know, who balances so many plates up in the air. It's pretty amazing. So what we want to do is kind of give an overview of what is going to go live here beginning at the Children's Hospital on the 18th of November, and then progressively roll out at Blodgett on the December 2nd, and then Butterworth December 9th, and then other locations following. So let's see here. Yeah. So we want to discuss a number of aspects of the SurgiNet anesthesia management application. Features of the AIS, functionalities, current state versus future state, data flow through the system, and what to expect. Hopefully, some of you at least started the tutorial, and the tutorial itself, which I've done a number of times, is helpful. It does give you a general sense of what the record is like. It doesn't really apply to the specifics of what we're doing, or what we have. We kind of create those ourselves. So it's a bit like being presented with a barren tree and you put the leaves on it. So as an analogy, but the intent is to create something that is personalized or particular to the institution and how we do our work. So a number of other physicians besides myself, John Huntington, J.B. Vandenberg, Jeff Rosenthal, Ryan Campice has helped a lot, helped create this along with our IT members, and it really has, as I think, progressed nicely. So what does it do for us? And why are we doing it? Well, partly is that, in a few years, everything is going to be digital. The federal government is going to require it. And so we thought, in part, that it would be best to try to do it when we don't have a gun to our head, for one thing. So there's certain things that it's going to, I think, significantly improve. One is our own anesthesia billing. We will have that immediately information when a chart is finalized, a record is finalized, it will go to the office. So they will be able to act on what you've done immediately. We will be satisfying certain Joint Commission requirements for comprehensive legible records, and we'll kind of look at some of that. But really, it's more practical than that. For people like Paul Jacklich and Adam McCarthy, who review anesthesia records, it really is difficult to read people's handwriting on a weekly basis when they're reviewing incidents and cases. Also, in another practical sense, our anesthesia quality nurses who come to the hospitals daily to find anesthesia records will no longer have to do that. As soon as we finalize a record, that record is inputted into the Clin Notes section of Cerner. And so they won't even have to leave the office now to find those records. I mean, it's a huge time savings for them. Will it be a time savings for us? I think, we could play the laugh sort of recording at this point to some degree. At the beginning, it's going to be difficult. It's like being presented with a brand new fancy piece of electronics, and you're going to have to read the owner's manual a bit. And that's why we felt it was, important that you come to this talk and kind of get a basic understanding of what it is, as well as come to a hands-on sort of session, because all of us, I think, learn best by actually doing it. And then we had a very good dry run on Friday morning with the hands-on session, and we kind of figured out some things educationally from it. And so we're also additionally going to be providing through our IT folks and myself and some of the other proctors actually direct person-to-person sessions over the next 4 to 6 weeks, as we go live with this, because it really is something that at first it's foreign to you. It was certainly foreign to me, and now it seems rather second nature, and I think after a few days of everybody doing it, it will kind of seem that way to you also. But we will be providing, I think, more than just this and a hands-on session. There will be other opportunities to work with it. And so that's that. And even when we go live, though, I think the efficiency of this is not going to be perfect. Everybody's going to be kind of slow with it. Clearly, that's the expectation. We're going to stagger starts on those days when first few days at each place that goes live, time starts. And so, I think there's plenty of opportunity to kind of get your hands wet with that, and we'll roll it out slowly and let everybody. We'll be there to help. Put it that way. Also, what this does is I think it'll help us with our data, which is becoming much more important to everybody, is both internally and externally. So I think our data acquisition through a digital record will be far easier. We'll also be able to, I think, through some more training, be able to access patient records, both current and historical records for the patient you're caring for. So I think there'll be some advantages there. The workstation, boy, it's interesting. Oh, it was so black I didn't even see it. So on the left there of the screen is the AIS monitor. We moved obviously the Philips monitor to the top. We thought about this for a long time. We felt that this was probably the best arrangement. Some places that we visited, the AIS monitor was actually on the far right of the machine, and I really didn't want to be turning my back on the patient to do recording, so we decided to put it there. I should say a couple other things before I get much farther into this. If you have, for the outside locations, during this, if you have questions, I want you to email Carolyn Ring. So it'd be carolyn.ring@spectrumhealth.org. So email Carolyn with questions that you have. And there'll be a couple of little things, ditties, as we go along. So anybody have any questions currently about the machine setup? Jeff? The Philips monitor you're speaking of. Yeah. Okay. The what? Glare. Oh, glare. Even with it tipped down? Chris? Oh, monitor onto the AIS? I don't know. That's a good question. What do you think about that? About Micah? Right. We'd be right there. That's a good question. So we're going to kind of go through what some of the opportunities, what it has. The data, probably the biggest plus is that as soon as you associate the patient and pick a macro and initiate that macro, what it does for you is allow the data acquisition from the Philips monitor to the AIS. And so you can be doing all your other care, the intubation, the induction, additional IVs, the art line. It may take a great deal of time. Like I was in a case yesterday, and I did not get to recording for about an hour and a half. And so with this, you will have immediate recording from the time you begin that macro and initiate it. So I think that's probably the biggest plus from my point of view is that data acquisition, and that'll include gases, your vital signs, and then once everything is settled, the dust is settled, then you can go to your to-do list, which we'll talk about, and medications. And so what you will find with this is that from a workflow point of view, you will pick a macro that is appropriate for the case you're doing, and that macro is simply a collection of actions, monitors, medications that you use typically for those cases, and they populate immediately as soon as you execute it to the record. Also, the demographics fill in automatically or associate when you have a patient to associate, and with that come various alerts as they happen, which you can click on and will show up. So in picking a patient, or when you have a patient, what's going to happen typically is in an OR, Blodgett, any location, there will be the scheduled patients that will associate to that particular room. And from that room list, you simply double click on the patient you've brought in, and that will open up the anesthesia record, and then you will choose the macro and execute it, and away you go. You will associate the monitor in each of the locations. If you're in Blodgett, this window will come up. If you're Butterworth, the Butterworth window will come up, and simply click on the room you're in, and the record will pop up. So in the top, in the blue area, is the demographic area. At the top, very top, is the toolbar. In the mid-left area will be the to-do list of things that you will complete that populated that area. Documentation tabs in the lower left-hand corner, and the major bulk of the record there is the record grid itself, where vital signs, medications will be located. So along the toolbar top area, you have the select case where you can remotely view another case ongoing. Views allow different types of viewing for the appearance of your record. Macros, another window that will have various boxes in it, such as surgical, epidural, adult general endotracheal anesthesia, LMA anesthesia, mask anesthesia, peds macros, similar types of anesthetics, and you will pick one of them, and that list of things that are associated with that macro will then be executed and to the record. Um, the medication list, again, you can access any medications you need or that aren't on your macro. You can, most of them will be within categories of medications within that task or toolbar area. The intake, again, you can access that and pull up additional IV fluids, output, blood, urine, so forth. Actions are the whole list of created things that we do. Intubation or airway management, vascular access, case times, a number of other categories. Personnel management, charge preview, which we probably won't use, and med fluid view for totals. The demographics bar has a number of different things listed, which we have some control over. And you will pick the ASA class, the anesthesia type that has been done. Alerts will pop up here, and you can access them. Pretty much the same as what you've previously experienced. The alerts will show case data discrepancies, like times. If you put down an incorrect time or back time something that didn't make sense, it'll pop up there. The to-do list is a list of actions and other things that medications, possibly monitors, that have been offered through the macro, and you need to do something with. You can either fill them out or you just get rid of them as you wish. If nothing has been done with them during the course of the case, when you come to finalize the case, then you will be presented these again, and to finalize, you have to do something with them. So with that, in the to-do list, it'll just highlight one thing, and then you can click on it. It'll open it up, and you can just decide what to do with it. So documentation tabs, again, these are tabs similar to the ones across the toolbar top, and just another way of accessing various actions, monitors, intake, output. So we have made some fields and certain actions required, and so the little red mark indicates a required field.
With the IVs, I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah.
With the IVs, if that's done in pre-op, do I have to still put that as done on the right side? Repeat the question.
Well, yeah, if there's something, for instance, the IV action, if it's done in pre-op, do I have to document it? Currently, we have it that way, but that's the way we currently have it. We may have some further discussion about that, but
the nurses were,
because it would be double documentation.
but the nurses were saying the same thing, that they had to document even if we did. Like in a PEDS case, if we did the IV, they were still having to document.
I think the action is existing IV, but you need to document the total liter of fluid. Because before the patient goes back to holding, we don't do an I&O. But I think the action can be use existing IV. That's what we've been talking about changing.
Well, I think Greg was indicating the red must-do or required fields of just the IV itself, right? Yeah. So
regardless of whether we put it in or not, we're going to have to put it where it was and what size it is?
We're gonna fix that. We're gonna fix
probably.
Take a note.
Yeah, we can.
No worries.
Yeah.
Right,
We're gonna make it so you don't have to do that.
if we didn't put it in.
If you didn't put it in, if you put it
Yeah,
Yep.
it would be.
We're
It
gonna
would be.
fix that.
So in the anesthesia grid area, again, this is a area where you'll find your vital signs, all your medications, the gas information, intake and output.
Do the macros of, say, a heart case have your procedures in the macro, like A-line, central line?
Yes.
Repeat the question.
Oh.
And there's specific, like a C-section would go right away have the spinal.
Yes.
Okay.
Repeat the question.
The,
Well, I
so
can't hear you.
so do the macros have the monitors and the notes for art lines, central lines, that sort of thing already built in them? Yes, they do. The spinal macro has the spinal action and even a lot of other things that probably aren't entirely necessary for a spinal, but the thought is that, like for a macro or an epidural or spinal regional, a lot of these events become general anesthetics. And so you still have all your gases ready to go. We basically tried to keep it fairly simple, and meaning that we didn't include the art line note, the central line note. Monitoring is not immediately in the macros for general anesthetics, for instance. What we decided to do was make a mini macro that includes art line, central line, and the monitoring side of things. So if you want to add that, so you're doing a big spine case, and you put an art line in. So you pick a general endotracheal anesthesia macro, and then you'll pick the mini macro to dump in those actions and monitors into the general endotracheal anesthesia macro, and then just use what you want for them. So we've tried to keep it relatively free of a lot of things that would otherwise end up in either the to-do list or executed and just would be zeros for something, like a lot of medications. For instance, obviously, we use a lot of Zofran, but Zofran's not in the macro. Could be. There's no reason why it couldn't be. And maybe that that'll be something that we do add. And part of it is that I think you'll find, once you start using this, that it really is very easy. That you'll just, okay, you have Zofran, and you just go to the medication list, the category of antiemetics, pick it out of there, give 4 milligrams of Zofran, time it, you're done. And so Decadron, same thing. Toradol, Tylenol. You know, all those things can be in any macro we want them to be in. But a lot of people give them, a lot of people don't give them. So if it just becomes where do people want to walk with all this stuff? And so we'll just kind of let you decide as a group where, what macros need to have, all these other things. But I think people will find that it's really very easy, once you've had a little hands-on with this, that it just is to pull all this other stuff in. There's no problem.
No matter how much work the physicians have done to make this right, you have to go into it knowing that there's going to be stuff that we're going to go, boy, we didn't think of that, or I wish we would have done that. This isn't the end for us when we go live. We will be gathering that information, and we'll put a process in place to review, and then how do we make changes going forward. So we'll make sure you get all that information, but just know, Mark and JB and John and the group have done a really great job of trying to cover the bases, but you can't predict everything. Some of it comes as you use it. You'll go, oh, wait a minute, let's do this.
Mm-hmm. Anna.
I did that Schlio thing.
Yeah.
And when you give meds, you're supposed
Yeah, that will not be required. The question is, on the medication window, one of the things to potentially fill out is the location that the medication was given, and that is not going to be a requirement. It already defaults in IV. That's plenty. I do want to mention the skip action. This does include a number of required fields. It is on every macro, and so we're trying to capture 100% these skip measures. And so when you finalize, it basically is an attestation that you have done these things, accounted for them in the adult patient. On the pediatric side of things, it's just temperature. So in some cases, it'll default certain differences. We can make defaults of, for actions different for different macros. There'll be, the question. I'm certainly that can I have my own custom macros? Currently, we want to try to shy away from that. So we're not planning on that. Yeah, I'll let Carolyn answer that one.
So what happens with two fins? It's based on encounter. So where we commonly see that is it can be a case of a patient who's booked as an AM admit, but for some reason they come in through the ER, and so they end up with two fins. So you do want to search for that. Now for you guys through AIS, you can use your case selection, and if you use that to choose your patient, you'll always get the right patient. You will never choose a wrong encounter. But we found that out when we went live with CPOE, that it's usually an ER patient that was supposed to be an AM admit. Sometimes if somebody's had a procedure at Lemon Holton, they'll have an outpatient encounter, and then they'll have their inpatient encounter. But again, if you go to case selection, you'll always have the right one. And these are little tips that will teach you along the way, but that's a really good question.
So at the end, you'll finalize the case. This is done through the task menu, and if you're that would be done typically in the PACU, where you have brought the patient after suspending the case in the OR and then reopening the case in the PACU. So we'll have some discussion about workflow with that, but finalizing the case will be tying up any loose ends that you have from the to-do list or blood, EBL, fluid intake, that sort of thing. I don't know if you can see that or not, but this is our current state with the paper record. But in the lower right-hand corner, we have the rounding report. It's eventually scanned into the patient chart. The anesthesia consent scanned. The anesthesia record, the white copy, is scanned into the patient chart, pharmacy charge sheet. All those things into the future state are going to go away. The only thing that's left is the paper anesthesia consent. Immediately when you finalize the case, the record goes to the Clin Notes area of Cerner. The office will get a billing notice. Also the office will get a insurance record, I believe. Isn't that right, Micah? And so that's unnecessary. The pharmacy will be getting the information via the MAR. As you give medications, those medications will download into the MAR as it happens, basically as it happens. So all that stuff basically goes away. We're going to start to use a power note for both the preoperative anesthesia evaluation and for our post-op notes. What are we going to do for when they're inpatients for information? as far as the rounding report having laboratory and so yes, the preoperative evaluation will pull in the same information, except it'll just be on the Cerner window for your pre.
There is another really good tool that if you come to our open lab, I'm going to give a plug here, we are going to have open computer lab time for you to practice. And in that practice session, not only will you practice AIS, but we can teach you things that are going to make your job a lot easier. There is a surgical handoff, it's an M page, that on that pre-op tab, it will have labs. You can set your date back a week or a month if you want. It will have the last set of vital signs. It will have your diagnostics. It will link you to clin notes and echo reports and everything you could want there. It will have a problem list. It will give you home meds. It'll give you their hospital meds. You literally can find everything you need to do your job from that one screen. We are working on what we'll pull forward into your pre-op note for you, so we're looking to try to enhance that and make that better. We've heard from you that you don't see pregnancy test results, that you don't see smoking, that you don't see diabetes. We're trying to fix those things, so when we go live with this, you'll hopefully come out with more than what you had. But we want to teach you some of these tricks because it will really make your life easier. So I highly encourage you, if you will post that schedule for the open lab, there'll be people there to help you and teach you these quick things.
Thanks.
We're working on that as well, and we're also working on one-to-one training. So one of the things we're looking at doing is our analysts are giving a lot of their time so we can hook you up one-to-one for an hour in the OR before you even go live, so you can have some time clicking around and going, okay, how does it work? These guys are really good. They know what they're doing. So they can really help give you a head start, so when you come in the day that we go live, it's not so stressful for you of what am I supposed to do?
Joe? Yes. Yeah. Will we? The question is, will we enter the various codes that are at the top of our current paper record? And the answer is yes. There's an action for that. So, just as some examples of our current paper record, and actually, we didn't get one from VT, but this is fairly typical for, and these really are not bad.
What is Van Vliet's? I recognize the handwriting.
Checks in the mail. Anyway, it'll be a little better than that. And this is so this will be something. This is what you'll see in the future. And this is the paper form of it. So probably are somewhat interested in knowing how the data flows from place to place. So the Philips monitor is also accepting not just what you have for vitals. It also is receiving information from the anesthesia machine. And it sends that information via something called an iBus server, which accepts the data that is flowing from those monitors. So if Cerner goes down, then the data is still being collected. And as I understand it, the great majority of the time when something happens, it is during Cerner downtime. The network itself is not the problem. And so if you're in the middle of a case and Cerner goes down, the iBus is still receiving data that is retrievable. So you'd probably finish the case on a paper record, but all of that data, so you would have started a case electronically, and that case probably, for the most part, other than the finalization process, you've probably done almost everything else. Medications, most of those have been recorded and are still there. Vital signs, those which have happened and those which are going forward, are still being collected. So in the end, the only thing that's missing is just the finalization, which probably will have you do if that happens in the middle of one of your cases. But that data is retrievable. Anybody have any questions about that? Greg?
Yep. What if we had, like we've had in the past, a whole day without it? Are we
Yep.
going to be expected to sit down at a computer and reassociate things?
What if we have, you know, prolonged periods of time where Cerner is down, and it's not just the case you were in the midst of doing, but you have a lot of other cases. No, the plan is simply to do them as we have been, as we're doing them right now on paper, and those paper records would simply get scanned. You know, probably, well, we wouldn't have the rounding report to print out or anything like that, but
We have a downtime.
but
We have a downtime.
yeah, we'd just have the downtime form. Yeah. So, and so the expectation would not be that those you enter, you know, retrospectively the data electronically.
If you're done with the pack, you know, crash, and you're in the pack, you finalize the case, can you later go back in and enter time struts? Can you go back in and enter some stuff? Say things are going on too fast.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah.
If you're done with that case, you can go back in.
Yes. You can enter data at any time. Yeah. So if you're in Joe is asking if you're in a thrash and now you find yourself in the PACU and you know the case is done, but you haven't had a chance to perform all the medications, for instance. You would have all your vital signs, right? I mean, you would have had that, but blood products. Yeah, you haven't had a chance to do all. And absolutely, you can sit down at a computer in the PACU and do all that prior to finalizing your case. That we no problem.
And even if you finalize your case, you can go back and modify your note.
Yeah.
So it's not done deal. You can go back and alter your note if you need to.
Yeah, you can unfinalize a case and go back and alter it. You can alter monitor values that you do not feel were accurate. You can add values that, you know, for instance, if you forgot to initiate or your macro and with that your anesthesia time, and so the data for say 20 minutes, 30 minutes was not flowing to the record. You just forgot. You still have the Philips monitor that was on. You go back, you look at that, and you can add those values in the electronic record. Oh, yeah, Bob. Yep. They will be. The only places that I think currently that we're going to continue to have paper records for a while at least would be the cardioversion area and Lemon Holden. Both Blodgett and Butterworth for the cardioversion areas and Lemon Holden. MRI will have the AIS. It won't be in the room, but it'll be in the control room. So, any other questions about that? Yep. Oh. Yeah, you will have suspended the case. Can you do another case? The question is, can you do another case if you haven't finalized the last one? And the answer is yes. You will have suspended that previous case, so it's just out there waiting to be finalized, and then yes, you can start. So let's say I was the supervisor and I haven't put my signature on that record. So you call me and say, Sink, you need to come finalize this record. and I'm going to go see the next patient, and so you've brought the next patient back to the room, who I had seen in pre-op, but you bring the next patient back. You can start that case, yes.
We will run reports on unfinalized cases, so daily we will know who has not finalized their case, and we will find you, because it has to be done. You guys can't generate a bill, we can't generate a bill, and we can't leave it hanging out there forever. So we will be putting people in place that can run those reports, and we'll know, and we'll come find you, and we'll help you figure it out. It's going to take a little while for people to get used to that step. The reports? Yeah, the question is on off shifts, will we run the unfinalized case report? We're probably going to have to do it every day for a while. So we'll probably have a time every day where we'll run it, and then we'll find people to get it done.
Does our billing come off the finalized time, or when does our billing time stop?
Well, there's an anesthesia stop time that you will add to the chart. So there's
Nothing to do with the finalization.
well, there's an action which is the stop time, and then the finalization is simply a page that you tidy up loose ends, sign, and then it's over. Jeff?
Is this medical record, does it record any and all vital signs that are available to it, or does it just take every 5 minutes, or what? How does it?
I think it collects every minute data that is available to it.
And it dumps it in the record.
And it dumps in the record every 5, yes.
And when we bring down somebody from the unit, we use their training.
No.
Look back at that.
No, we won't. We will. It won't. Pardon?
The clock starts.
Well, the clock, but you're talking about the data. We will not. That monitor won't be associated to the record. So no, you would have to hand enter any vital sign data that you wished in the record. Nick? So the question was, is the modified information, and you certainly can modify the chart, is that discoverable, legally discoverable? I don't know that. I'm not sure.
We'll find out.
We'd find that, yep. Right. Right. I don't think it's necessarily any different than the process that occurs now. I mean,
We don't think it shows in the printed record, but we're going to check. I know from a nursing perspective, what we do when we modify a record, vital signs or whatever, we'll add a note why we're modifying. So artifact from A-line, recalibrated, something like that. So we'll add a note of why we're modifying, just to give a little explanation of what are we doing. We're not just data smoothing for the fun of it. We have a purpose behind it.
any other questions? Oh, Christy? Sure. So the question is, your anesthesia start time, when does that happen? And so the answer would be, really, when you say you take control of that patient, when you are in charge of the care for that patient. So if you have, if the IV, for instance, hadn't been started in the holding area, you start it, you're continuously with the patient, you provide sedation, for instance, and then 10 minutes has occurred from the time you started that IV, provided sedation, entered the room, wheels in the room, I think you certainly could take credit for that time if you so wish. And so, yes, you can start your anesthesia time whenever you think you were responsible for that patient.
We have a pager question. The pager question is, are post-op sign-outs done on the AIS?
Okay. What we're currently thinking of doing is having the immediate post-anesthesia sign-out as an action that's part of every macro. And so that will be, when you reopen in the PACU the anesthesia record, you will just do it. It'll be on your to-do list, and it'll be just that. There are no vitals that you have to enter on it. What it is basically is an attestation, again, that you are delivering or transferring care to typically the PACU RN or possibly the intensivist in the intensive care unit, a patient that is stable for them to take over care for. The immediate one. Then there's the 48. That would be the 48-hour note.
Okay. Will we be doing that ourselves, or can anybody enter the?
Any anesthesia provider, doc, CRNA, AA, can do that. Oh. So the question is, when we arrive in the PACU, what terminal do we get to play with? And we are going to have, there'll be two separate computers, one for the nurse, one for us. We're going to have, what's the word I want? Designated or...
Yeah. The nurses clearly are very territorial about their computers. I mean, that's no secret. They don't even like you to put your stuff on their table. So we will be looking at deploying computers on wheels that are available, and the workflow will be at Butterworth and Helen DeVos. When you call to say, where am I going, what's my bay assignment, we will bring a computer to that bay so it's waiting for you when you arrive. So you can log on, so while the nurses are doing their vitals and their assessment, you can get your record pulled up so you can show them your record and go through your report and walk through a report much like you do with the paper version now, only doing it on the computer. And then in the pre-op areas, for your pre-op note, we'll be deploying more computers there as well. So we'll have extra computer access, but there are options pre-operatively. You can do your note in the pre-op area. You could choose to go back to the OR and do it at your own computer. If it's an urgent case and you need to get back to the OR, you can always do your pre-op note after you start the case. There's no rule that has to be done before you hit the OR.
I don't know why I'm doing this. You're much better at this than I am.
Sorry.
Anyway.
Sorry.
No, that's great. We have tried, various tablets, and really none of them had been particularly satisfactory as far as Cerner access is concerned. I know my Cerner on my iPad, which I can get, it's just hard to use. Now, as far as just getting to some simple things like power notes, might not be too bad, but still it's not great. So we'll talk more, as time goes on about workflow and getting those 48-hour notes done, that sort of thing. So there's more to come about that. We still have to have a lot of work to do as far as just the workflow itself. But as Carolyn said, there will be a lot more computers for everybody. We're not planning on having to share a computer with others.
We have another pager question.
Yeah.
They would like to know, are we printing the records after finalizing?
No, at least not planning to. I mean, if you think they're pretty or something like that and want to have one, that's fine. But No, no reason to.
You want to try to make it through your last few slides?
Let's see, something else about the power nodes. Okay, power node access, or just chart access. You know, so when you have a patient and what there will be along the toolbar area will just be a patient chart window, so you can access the patient's chart via your anesthesia record. And then the power nodes associated with that patient in the record. So it should be fairly easy access. And one very positive thing happened today, and that is that Larry Taylor does have Cerner access now. I mean, he hasn't even touched a computer, you know.
Like a public shame.
Unbelievable. Been doing too much hunting, I guess, and fishing. He's not even here to defend himself. Is he here to defend himself? Good. Sorry to pick on you there, Larry.
Questions are about the go live dates, Mark, so go through that slide.
Okay. So, Children's Hospital the 18th, so that's about 4 weeks away. And Blodgett about 6 weeks from now. Butterworth 7. Progressing from there. You know, I guess, you know, my feeling is that by the time we get to the Butterworth main, and just about everybody's going to be, I think, fairly facile with this whole thing. I really think that. I think for the most part, the struggles will be over, and we will have worked out a lot of the workflow issues, and I think you'll find that it's not too bad. I think we're going to survive this one way or another.
So you may wonder why we chose what we did. We went to Helen DeVos first because it's a smaller group, it's much more controlled, and Huntington has been doing some work to get people prepped and ready for us because we need to leave behind people who are strong because we're moving on to the next site. We couldn't bring everyone up at once, it's just too much. We don't have the reserve on our bench to do that. So that's why we looked at and tried to be very strategic. If things are going really well and people are feeling really confident, we'll speed up the timeline. But we wanted to give ourselves enough time in case we had any hiccups along the way or felt like people were struggling. We don't want you to feel additional stress. I mean, it's stressful enough with this change. We wanted to make sure that you felt well supported. We will be bringing in some help from Cerner. They're ACE support. They have people that are trained. They won't know our specifics, but they'll know how Cerner works. But we know the specifics. So you will have physician super users. Many of you are already in the room. Myself, Steph Copes, and then our analysts will all be there to support you. So you will have at the elbow support. You will not be left alone, not knowing what to do.
Yep.
You've got a question.
Oh, hi, Anna.
Since we have to log in pre-op and the OR and then PACU, and then can we somehow streamline the Cerner login?
Well, we are.
That like takes forever.
I know it. We hope and will have badge login access. We hope to have that up and running around the 9th of December, somewhere around there, about the same day we think that Butterworth will go live. And so it won't be available for the initial go live for Children's or Blodgett, but we hope it will be by the first part of December. And so what that means is that really is a separate item. We will be the first badge access users in the Spectrum universe, and so we're kind of guinea pigs for this a little bit. We think it'll work. We're fairly certain it will. It does require some training, as I understand it. There is a registration process for it. And so what we're hoping to do is that, as I understand it, our current badge works for it. And so what we're hoping to do is as we to continue to have people kind of have more training with the power notes and with the AIS, that we include another little training event probably later in the month of November or during the month of November, where we actually kind of do that registration process and get that out of the way. And so that once it is available to go live, it goes live for all of us at the same time. So I think that was correct, right?
Yep.
So anyway, as far as accessing and logging in, it is painful, and we're trying to make it significantly less painful. And that, so what there will be with that is a little device that will be in every OR. It will be with all of our designated computers in the PACU and PACUs, and those same devices in the holding areas. So we're going to primarily, or try to go to the laptops on wheels that people can pull up to the bedsides in the holding areas and PACUs, and complete your charting or do your preoperative evaluation, or at least begin the preoperative evaluation, which you then complete in the OR, that sort of thing. Other questions about that part of things? I know a lot of people have tried, thank you, to do the tutorial. It's been a bit difficult to access, at least from certain, either from home or from certain computers. I have accessed it with my own, iPad and iMac at home. You do have to have Citrix to use it, to be able to get into Cerner, or get into Spectrum Health Insight and then get to Schleo, not Cerner. What I find is pretty easy to do is, if you have a little downtime, is to use a Spectrum, when you're at work, use a Spectrum computer. You need to log in as yourself, and you do that, and it's easiest to use a desktop because it just has a bigger screen. And the lower left-hand corner is the start area. You go to start, it just says log in, so you log in as yourself, and then you get to the Insight page, and then it's on the Insight it says my learning, my learnings, my life at Spectrum, my life. Yeah, and then so click on that. Exactly, and then it's my career, and then under that category is Schley Online. Click on Schley Online. That takes you to another page, which includes some training areas, and one of those training areas is surgeon ed anesthesia. So just click the start button, and there'll be another odd page that comes up and says something error, I think, and it's not, but you just press here, the first press here that you see, and it just gets rid of that page, and you go on to the course. Oh, okay. Yeah, and then on Power Notes, there's some instruction that I think you'll find in your emails about another online thing. So should be good. So it's just easier access through a Spectrum computer, basically. So as you're going through all this, feel free to contact myself or John Huntington. In particular, if you have questions about it, and we'll try to get them answered for you. Let's see, what else was there? So one thing, we'll try to deliver is particularly with a hands-on, a number of little important bits of information about the AIS. One significant thing is that you want your record, your data to start flowing to your record. And the way that happens is with your anesthesia start. So you'll have, what we have on every macro is the anesthesia start action, and it's executed. So you want to just pick a macro and then execute the macro. because that then begins that data flow to your record. You can potentially you don't even need a macro to do a case. You can pick whatever actions out of the actions area that you need to do that case. And that's why in part why we kind of kept the macros fairly limited and simple. And so, for instance, with regularity, a MAC anesthetic becomes a general anesthetic. Do you need to pick an LMA, or if you put an LMA in that person and started sevoflurane and gave them a bolus of propofol, do you need to pick the LMA macro? No, you don't. All you have to do is stick with your MAC macro and just go to the actions area and pull in the LMA action, chart your bolus of propofol, and all the other data just starts flowing in. And you've turned on the Sevo, you'll start to notice that the end-tidal Sevo starts to show up, your CO2 starts to show up, and other gas or volume data. So that as an indication that you've begun a general anesthetic, for instance. No, not really, I would say. Does it have to the question was, do my times have to match the nurse's times? Is that kind of your question, Becky? The nurse's time is the room. Yeah, is the room time. Yeah. No, basically not. As we were kind of talking about before, the anesthesia start is what you say it is. So if you're including, the sedation time that you provided out in the holding area and then immediately brought the patient back after that, those minutes are could be included in your anesthesia time. So they don't have to exactly match. There's no rule that they have to. Yes. Well, you could do it that way. I would just chart it on my anesthesia record. Yep. Yep. Yes, if you had continuous care of that patient and you gave that sedation, then yes, I would.
Can you repeat it so logic got the whole gist of that?
So the question was, if I gave Versed or fentanyl or some other sedative out in the holding area, where would I chart it? And I would recommend just simply charting it on your anesthesia record when you get into the OR. The other possibilities would be you could go to the record while you're out in the holding area and put it in the MAR. You can do that. Another would be simply a pre-op. You could include it potentially in your preoperative note, potentially, but really you've begun your anesthetic time. So I guess I would say, why not include it on your anesthesia record? So the question is there's that the room time, should the room time and the anesthesia start time be the same thing? Joe, do you have a response?
That's the easiest thing to do, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. But you do have to maintain continuous care of the patient. So you can't give your Versed, walk away, finish your coffee, come back, push the room, you know what I mean? You have to literally stay with that patient the whole time. Then it can be the start of your anesthesia. Same thing with transporting the patient to the NCU. When you start that bed rolling, that can be your NCU start. Yep.
If that patient is injured on the way back to the operating room, it is part of our care.
I drop patients all the time. Crap.
Did you have a question, Ed? Okay.
You want to hit
Yep.
the last couple slides?
Yes. Yeah. You can put that anesthesia start on the time, whatever time you want to make it. And so that's what the office will see, and that's how they'll bill from, is your anesthesia time from start to finish. Yes, so I answered that about the vitals. So you can change vitals. Can I customize them? Probably not, at least at this time. We answered that one. Good. Any other questions people have? Pretty much right on time. Christy.
If you have a big case, ruptured aortic aneurysm, there's two people in the room, is there a way to put on the record to make that happen?
Yeah, I don't know if we can bill for it, but we can certainly make it happen on the record, and we'll show you how to do that. So the question was, can you have recorded two anesthesia providers or two docs on the case at the same time? And yes, you can. Lindsay? That's a good question. So if you're doing an MRI and you are someone who chooses to remain in the MRI room itself, do I paper chart or what do I do? And well, we cannot have the AIS in the room. It's just not possible. Yeah, I guess you'd. Yeah, right. I think what I would probably do. I mean, we can talk about that, and we can have create some sort of workflow for it. I think you'd probably have to, as Greg is saying up here, I think you'd probably have to kind of go back when you're finishing the case or after if it's a general anesthetic and you take the patient up to the PACU, to then add in the medications like for induction that you gave if you haven't done that already. I think that's what I would do. You'd probably initiate an electronic record and then go, or someone would, who's helping you, and then come and just kind of work around a little bit. I'm sorry, say again. Yes, the IR room.
He's talking about endo. He's talking about endo. Yes.
Oh.
It's the remote, Mark.
Oh.
It's not in our off-site locations. It doesn't communicate exactly the same way it does in the OR. I'm not a technical person, so you're going to get my dumbed-down version of how it works. There's another little remote access thing that allows that data to flow for us. So the expectation is in IR, endo, MRI, any of those locations, we will use the AIS. It just, the data will still flow. It just doesn't take the same pathway through the Philips monitor. Am I sort of right on that one? Okay, I'm getting the thumbs up from my tech people.
Anna?
So, you do an MRI, go and do an MIBG, and then go to CT scan.
The CT scan, lasts about 10 minutes?
Yeah, but you got 2 hours in the MRI.
Yeah. Well, I think, in that circumstance, are the monitors available?
So the question is, you're
Look up-
traveling from location to location with the
within-
same patient outside of the OR. What do?
Yeah.
You can suspend your record and you can pick it back up in your new location.
Yeah.
You're able to do that. And that way you'll have a contiguous record of what went on, because you can pause. It's kind of like a pause, lets you travel to where you're going, and you can pick it back up and start up again.
Right.
You have to associate it again and all that?
Yeah, you will have a different machine. Right. Yeah, and so a different monitor. different AIS and a different location. So you'd have to, yes, you'd have to reassociate. You'd pick that same patient and associate it to that particular AIS in that location. It will. Yep. Yep. Well, not in the travel time. The travel monitor will. We can't. There's no data pickup from that for us.
So the question is, will the vitals transmit during travel? No,
Yeah.
they won't.
Yep.
Just like traveling to the PACU, no, they won't. You won't have vitals during that period. And you picked an unusual workflow, and if we need to look at it again and make alterations to it, we can. But try not to stress out about those things. Majority of your cases are within the OR proper. It's going to be all right. We're going to get through it.
Yeah. Christy? So the question is, can you just bring the machine with you? And I suppose you possibly could, but I don't think you'd really want to. I think you'll find that associating, suspending and then reassociating that case probably isn't that difficult to do.
So again, we'll go live. We'll see how things are working. If this workflow is really problematic, we'll go back and look at it again. We'll figure out how we can do it better. It isn't over when we go live. We can always go back and revisit any decision we made.
Yep. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.